and reclaiming your energy from anything outsourced so that we can be present for you and for us in whatever ways we can facilitate this meeting that is generative. Activate change, generate healing immediately. Welcome. Yeah. Hello.
Hello.
So, I would ask you to start us off by just introducing yourself, your name, where you live, pronouns, and any identities that you lead with. And those can be relational or abstract.
Wow. Yeah. I feel like starting off with a banger. It's so funny when I was writing these questions, I was like, so simple, so easy. Introduce yourself, something that we do all the time. And now that I'm here, I'm like, we could just take the whole 15 minutes to like list and unlist or, it's funny, like claiming. I was in sorry, I'm just totally going off script, but I was in an exercise, a little meditation that ended with saying your name to yourself 3 times before like ending the meditation. And that's what this reminded me of. But my name is Isaac Rubinstein, Isaac Lloyd Rubinstein.
Isaac Lloyd Rubinstein.
Lloyd comes from my mom's dad, and Rubinstein comes from my dad and my dad's dad. Mm.
Do you want to name I remember you mentioned in our last thing your mom, the 3 matriarchs or the 2 matriarchs. Do you know
Yeah.
yeah?
Yeah, that's a great, thank you. Yeah, so my mom's name is Sharon Lee Hamill, and my mom's name is Mary Ann Lee.
Wonderful. We'll call that energy into the space as support columns for you.
Love that. And I live in Providence, Rhode Island. The traditional territory of the Narragansett people. I live in Olneyville, one of the 9 neighborhoods of Central Providence. And what was the next question?
This one is, well, okay, I'm going to pivot for a moment so if we came to your house for a meal, what was something classic, either from your local region or from your family? What would be like a classic meal that like Justin and I would receive if we came to your
Wow, that's a really good question. I think a classic meal, the most classic meal in my family is popcorn, apples, and cheese. Doesn't sound like much of a meal, but on Sunday nights we would basically like as a family watch a movie, and my folks would put together this like really easy meal of making popcorn and slicing up some apples and cheese. And that yeah, is a tradition that I'm proudly carrying on.
I love that. And then the other question was, what identities do you lead with?
Mhm.
And I can explain that if you need, or you can just jump in whatever intuitively pops into mind.
Yeah, I feel like I'll jump in. I think we had a brief chat about it when we were setting this up. I use he and they pronouns, and I am a son, loving partner to my partner Madeline of 8 years. I am a cat parent of 2 sweet kittens whose names are Nikolai and Louise. I am Jewish, was raised Jewish, and for the first time in a long time thought about joining a local temple, which is an interesting thought. It was actually quite self-serving, not because, I really wanted to connect with my Judaism, but like it was like a sort of like a networking thing, which was funny. I am a recovering alcoholic and addict. I consider myself to be yeah, in or partially in like some Buddhist traditions, or trained in some Buddhist traditions. And I am a participant in the Genesis Design Challenge.
Yes, you are. That is so wonderful. Thank you for sharing, Isaac. Before I move into the next questions, do you need to hear anything from Justin and I to help move the space, or?
I'm worried about where I'm looking. I'm getting like I got like you two over there, and like the camera's right there. and and so I'm just wondering, maybe I should really try and like look at the camera, but that's very challenging. Okay.
Yeah,
What
that's
do you think?
perfectly fine. I don't mind when you look that way as well, because we can still sense that you're talking like from your heart. And if you occasionally look at the camera, that's okay. But being neurodivergent myself, sometimes looking at the direct eye contact is not conducive to language flowing. So please modify as you feel necessary. But like Justin pointed out, he does appreciate the direct eye contact, but only if that supports your ability to answer these questions. Yeah,
All right.
sweet.
Thank you. Yeah, I feel good.
Okay, excellent. So question number 2 is our why. So what initially drew you into this Genesis Design Challenge?
So I joined the Genesis Design Challenge as a process steward. Initially, when I signed up, I wasn't sure exactly what process I would be stewarding, but I was drawn to being of service to Justin and the other participants of the Living Lab. I had I've had previous experiences in these sorts of like design challenge, um, in these sort of experimental, collaborative, I'm not sure if decentralized is the right word for this, but yeah, I've had really generative experiences in these sorts of collaborative design processes, and I wanted to participate in one from the point of view of someone who was partially responsible for the production and execution of the Living Lab. And when I joined, I was trying to basically bring together two sides of my sort of working life. I am a program evaluation. I work at a local nonprofit doing program evaluation for them, and I have started to do photography and videography on the side this spring and summer. And I thought that this was a great opportunity to see if there was a clear overlap between what I was doing in my 9 to 5 and what I have really been enjoying the side.
Okay, perfect. That kind of brings us into the next question about that relationship with the work. What has been unfolding for you in the Genesis Design Challenge or in relationship to the whole experience of what you just expressed, the 9 to 5 and this collaborative evolutionary experience?
Yeah, sorry, could you repeat the question?
Sure. It's kind of like what has been unfolding for you? Where has this path led you?
Yeah, so Justin gave me the honorary title of Information Alchemist when I started, which was very kind. And it was felt to be like a nice, succinct expression of how I was sort of trying to use data and information to sort of transmute and transform the like immense suffering within myself and the world around me into something else. And what has happened, a few things. I have been consistent in developing and publishing these Genesis Design Challenge surveys. So at the end of each phase, I send out maybe a 10-question survey, mostly quantitative on sort of a Likert scale, but a few qualitative questions as well, asking about folks' experience, sort of from a pretty normative program evaluation perspective that just tries to get some quantitative data on what can be a very like deeply subjective experience. And that was sort of like my first like concrete offering, something that I knew was going to be an aspect of what came about in terms of this process stewardship. Justin and I had gone through a 10-week process together in November, December, and January of sort of 2024, 2025. So just like 6 months before this. And we had identified that there was an opportunity to bring my capacity to, yeah, just like develop, distribute, and analyze surveys to the Genesis Design Challenge and to his work and now our work. And then, I mean, the last, is it 6 weeks now? The last 6 weeks have, yeah, seen a pretty like intense transformation within myself. This summer, I've been using drugs and alcohol pretty consistently and came to a head pretty soon after the Genesis Design Challenge started. And so I was able to like cease my use of those substances and get involved in my local sort of recovery community here in Providence. And definitely in the first like 4 weeks, I was, yeah, processing a lot of long held like challenges, long held personal challenges. And that really crystallized for me this sort of more like less scientific, more creative storytelling that I really love. And so this interview process that we're in right now is the output of sort of a collaboration that I have helped to lead. And yeah, it feels really great to be doing something that I wanted to do for a long time. And I can already tell, like, I can already tell that, like, it's a good thing. And I don't know, like when I go to work, like I don't always know that what I'm doing is effective or meaningful. Often it does not feel that way. And so, this sort of like showcase interview series that we're doing is like a piece of the puzzle, and I think an important piece for me. And yeah, sort of like potentially prototyping, prototyping a video podcast series or a interview series that I feel like the conversations that I have with folks are so meaningful to me, and I've heard that they're meaningful to others. And yeah, I'd like to be more open about sharing that meaning that is generated like between people, and this feels like a great place to do that.
That makes sense. And so what I'm hearing from you is that this opportunity of stepping out of the ordinary into a different kind of container, one that you've maybe sampled previously, but this particular one maybe is in parallel to more of like your uh, professional wishes and desires to kind of like meeting a growth edge in some of your personal and professional like growth, and what you have found even with the like analytical information collection that started with kind of initiating this process also opened up to like you stepping into like your own kind of self-empowerment, where you have chosen the to take steps towards like reclaiming your own personal like clarity with this sobriety and aspects like that. And so would you say that there is like, can you name how that support is different here than in a typical 9 to 5? Or did I get that right? Did I?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think you did. I think in this container, there is the explicit understanding that it's like experimental and self-organizing. And so there's a lot more, I think, flexibility in the roles and how folks show up. And what I've realized is that even though I am partially attracted to the sort of like rigorous scientific process, that's sort of more like of a fear thing. It's more like I feel like I am trying to collect that information because I feel like I need it, not because I want it. And the interview pieces is or the like sharing the yeah, relationality and affect is because it's fun to do and I enjoy it. And it always like provides learning. And I feel like in my role at One Neighborhood Builders, it's very much I don't think there's hope. Like I don't think there is a sense of possibility for what we're able to do or achieve or impact. It's really like how do we do everything that we can to prevent or to slow the decay of our like social infrastructure. And I feel like here it's like, oh, we're not actually, yeah, we might be like stabilizing folks' internal states and like creating a safe container for folks to like have generative relationships, but it's also the hope that we might be able to like create something new together and live more fulfilling lives together and work in more like aware ways. And that like work can be this or like our gifts to our communities can be these opportunities to develop as people and work is like a part of your spiritual path. It's not divorced from it. And so yeah, I've been thinking a lot about like right livelihood because I've been considering um like finding a different 9 to 5 and talking to folks that work in like the corporate sector. And I had a great conversation with a friend from high school on Friday, and she works for a big tech company, and she helps to order the widgets and the hardware that create the data centers that the AI will run on. And it was a fantastic conversation. It's so funny how little people change. Like they like become more themselves, but like yeah, she was fundamentally the same person that I haven't talked to in 10 years. And she yeah, was very close to quitting her job, was very close a few months ago when they signed a contract with Palantir. And the conversation and her sense of like moral turpitude and her fear that she wasn't doing the right thing or her fear that she was sort of like on the wrong side of history was like it was very palpable. And I think about like yeah, just the options that I have and how to give my energy to the world in meaningful ways.
It's a great story.
So I I think I need to like put a sticker or something that
Over
just
your
says
face.
look here.
So we use these little devices called learning questions as like pathways of exploration and inquiry and curiosity. And I wanted to know, yeah, what is your learning question? What was your learning question for this journey? And yeah, where has that question led you?
That's a great question because I think, yeah, it's this interesting thing where I feel like it was an, well, I'll just read it. How can I use my ability to witness beauty within and without to develop the necessary infrastructure and inspiration to allow those within the Open Circle Foundation network to develop their relationship to beauty, self-expression, and reverence for life as a creative partner? And that was my initial question that came out of the sort of the first sort of I guess the second iteration because I think I put something down in the sort of sign up form, but that came through really strongly after our first chat with Miriam, and then now it's more of like how will Rubinstein Productions support individuals and small businesses in telling their story and doing so in such a way that is, yeah, both a creative process, a meaningful process, and something that is able to resonate in their network.
You once told me a story that was really impassioned, not that I have to put that on you now, but around the importance of like data and information and storytelling to you. Can you talk about like what are the current problems or challenges you see with how data and information is being used, and what are the opportunities you see for like storytelling or kind of maybe Rubinstein's productions or your learning question to be able to do something or off something a little bit differently?
Yeah, right now our information ecosystem is a profit-driven machine. So whenever we give our information willingly over to these social media companies or to these sort of AI companies that are providing a really valuable service, you know, the ability to connect, we often do so uh, on like the free version. So you can download any sorts of app or social media tool and share whatever you would like. And that information and how you interact with the tool is I would say pretty forcefully. Well, I had always heard that if you are not paying for it, you are the product. And so rather than being a user of a product, uh, you know, our information is harvested to sell us things we don't need. And that's really horrifying. It feels like to interact online and digitally means that we become like subjected to this sort of profit machine that uses our images and our desires and our sort of most like our fears to, you know, get us to buy things or get us to, you know, further entrap us in cycles of addiction. And yeah, I think we, you know, the United States is in a particular problem around this because we have such a oligarchic society right now. I think it's maybe a little different in Europe. There are a lot more consumer protections around how information is used and the steps that you have to go through as a consumer to give away your information. I am of two minds about it. I think that we both have to, you know, learn to live within the societies that we're born into and also learn to navigate them skillfully and you know, hopefully participate in changing them for the better. And I think that telling my story, sharing openly with others about um, what's going on for me or uh, what my path has been has continually given me, I think, more than more than other things that I've done in my life. I think that like the thought that my vulnerability is like harvested is something that is like quite like paralyzing in some way. Like it's like if you share, it's harvested, and if you don't share, uh, you know, you there's a silencing or this or you know this thought that you know, oh well, maybe if you did share, you know, you might be able to learn something new about yourself or connect with someone that you didn't know.
So in light of that perspective and information, I'll ask you the same question again. What drew you to the Genesis Design Challenge? Or in your words, what is the reason we gathered?
I think the Genesis Design Challenge represents an alternative to the ways that we have engaged with work and with sharing stories in the past. I think that by connecting with an intimate, like a small group of people in sort of these intimate settings, does provide something that interacting online in a sort of, just like sharing without context really can't provide. And so I joined the Genesis Design Challenge to be able to listen to folks and be both offer the gift of listening and sharing my story in ways that like felt apart from or more apart from the sort of mass information ecosystem that I don't think is doing us any good or doing me any good.
Well, congratulations. You've made it through the majority of the interview. We're coming up onto the last 10 minutes. So if you want, I invite you to do a little bit of a tense it up and just shake it off. Yeah, nice. There we go.
Uh,
Yeah, that's right. There we go. So we have a couple of playful ways. You can choose to either like mime your experience of climbing the journey of Genesis design challenge. So no words, no and just moving actions. Or the other option would be to identify if we were an ecosystem, what plant, animal, insect, or element would you be?
When I worked at a residential treatment facility for teenage boys in Wyoming, we went on this 4-week backpacking trip in the summers. And one of the games that we brought with us was a deck of sort of animal cards. And the card that I drew was an elk. And this like archetype of the elk was, yeah, I think it stuck with me because it was like sort of like loud and brash and like big and sort of yeah, it was all about like sharing energy and like giving and like going out. And so I think like I'm like an elk, like nibbling on the grass and like, putting on my horns and, just getting messy. Um, and
Part
so
of a
I think
herd, right?
whatever.
Steady moving forward. If grass was the information, you'd be like nibbling on it.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like the elk here. I'm gonna try to see if I can find it. Well, maybe later. Maybe later I'll find it and yeah, share it if I
But
can. I can do so.
yeah, included on the mural board even.
Yeah.
um, any final thoughts on the theme of finding your way or making something visible from invisible?
Yeah, participating in the Genesis Design Challenge has, for me, reaffirmed that all the best things happen in relationship, and that we really, for me, like even as I like become more in touch with myself and my history and my future, also the more I understand that it is really the relationships that make me whole. Um, and so, yeah, it's like it's a process of like walking together. Um, and yeah, I've tried to be more honest and more brave than I have in the past, and I feel like that has been met really warmly in this group. And yeah, I just have like a huge amount of like love and reverence for you two, as well as like the rest of the participants, and for just sort of like the core values of what we're doing together. Um, it's just very powerful. And I just, yeah, it's just a lot of gratitude. And yeah, that's it. Thank you. Y'all did great.
Yeah, I want to supercharge you, Isaac, with a lot of love and gratitude for what you've brought to the the circle here. It's been like your enthusiasm and encouragement has been palpable and received on, not only by showing up in the meetings, but like, really kindly responding to people as well in the threads that we've created. And so, I do echo your, taking those risks and being brave and sharing yourself and also being like adaptive and shifting to like what's needed for the moments that flow. So I just really want to send that appreciation out there. And thank you so much for taking the time and being the first one to